It seems like every day you see a new headline about some company or organization getting hit by a cyber attack.
Yeah,
It's
it really does.
it's enough to make anyone nervous, right? I mean, how do you even keep up?
Yeah.
So today we're doing a deep dive on something called Medusa Ransomware.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to look at what it is, how it works, and most importantly, how to protect yourself against it.
Sounds good.
And full disclosure up front, all of the information we're talking about today is coming from a bunch of recent advisories and articles that we've collected.
Right.
We're not making this stuff up.
Yeah.
But this isn't about fear-mongering.
No.
It's about giving you the knowledge you need to stay safe in this crazy digital world.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
So to kick things off, we've got some pretty serious warnings about Medusa ransomware coming from some big names like the FBI and CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Yeah, the big guys.
The big guys, exactly.
And MS-ISAC, too. That's the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center.
So they're all saying this is something we need to pay attention to.
Absolutely not something to ignore.
But before we get into the specifics, could you just give us a quick rundown on what ransomware is in general?
Sure. So basically, ransomware is a type of malicious software or malware that encrypts your files.
Okay,
It locks them up so you can't access them.
gotcha.
And then the attackers hold those files hostage and demand a ransom, usually in cryptocurrency, to give you the key to unlock them.
So it's literally like they're kidnapping your data.
Yeah, pretty much.
Crazy.
And here's the thing. Even if you pay the ransom, there's no guarantee that they'll actually give you the decryption key.
Wow. So you could pay up and still be stuck.
Exactly. And on top of that, they might still leak your sensitive data even after you've paid.
So they're basically digital pirates.
Yeah, kind of.
Now, I understand that Medusa takes this whole ransomware thing to a whole other level, right?
They do. It's not just about encrypting files anymore.
Right.
Medusa uses what's called a double extortion strategy, so they'll encrypt your data like other ransomware. Right.
But they'll also steal a copy of it before encrypting it and threaten to release that data publicly if you don't pay the ransom.
Oh, wow.
So that adds a whole other layer of pressure.
Yeah, that's scary. So they're basically saying, pay up or we'll humiliate you.
Exactly. And for businesses especially, that can be devastating.
Yeah.
Think about financial records, customer data, private emails, all of that being exposed.
Yeah, that's a PR nightmare.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we know that Medusa is bad news, but how big of a threat are we really talking about here? Is this like a small group of hackers, or is this something more organized?
Well, it started as a closed group, but they've actually shifted to what's called an affiliate model.
Okay.
Think of it like a franchise operation. They provide their ransomware tools to other cyber criminals in exchange for a cut of the profits.
Interesting. So it's like ransomware as a service.
Exactly. And that means there are a lot more attackers out there using these methods.
So how did these Medusa affiliates actually get into systems in the first place?
Well, the most common way is through phishing attacks.
Oh, yeah, basically it's like a digital con game where they try to trick you into clicking a malicious link or opening an infected attachment. They might disguise themselves as a legitimate organization like your bank or a well-known company.
Right. I've seen those. Like you get an email that looks like it's from Amazon or something, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't order anything.
Exactly, and that's how they get you because those emails can look very convincing.
So what can people do to avoid falling for these phishing scams?
First, always double-check the sender's email address.
Yeah.
Look for any misspellings or anything that seems off.
Okay.
Hover over links before you click them to see where they actually lead, and never ever open an attachment unless you are absolutely sure it's safe.
Good advice.
Another thing to be aware of is software vulnerabilities. So basically, these are weak spots in your computer's software that hackers can exploit to gain access.
Well, it's kind of like leaving a window open in your house.
Exactly. So it's important to keep your software updated because those updates often include patches for security vulnerabilities.
Right, right. I know those updates can be annoying, but they're important.
Yeah, they're like the security system for your computer.
Okay, so it's clear that Medusa is a real threat, but the good news is that there are things we can do to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
The advisory we've been looking at actually has a lot of great recommendations, so let's walk through some of those, starting with strong passwords, which I think we all know is important.
Yeah, it's like the foundation of good cybersecurity.
But I've heard that we're not supposed to change our passwords all the time anymore. Is that true?
Yeah, the thinking on that has evolved.
Okay.
Constantly changing your password can actually lead people to choosing weaker passwords that are easier to remember or guess.
That makes sense.
So instead, focus on creating strong, unique passwords for each of your accounts and use a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols.
Right. A good mix of everything.
And if you have trouble remembering all those passwords, which I know I do,
Me too.
consider using a password manager.
Yeah, those are super helpful. I actually use one myself, and it's a lifesaver. Yeah, they really are.
The advisory also emphasizes the importance of multi-factor authentication. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. So multi-factor authentication, or MFA, adds an extra layer of security to your accounts.
Okay.
So even if someone steals your password, they still can't access your account without that second factor, which could be a code sent to your phone, a fingerprint scan, a security key, something like that.
So it's like having two locks on your door.
Exactly. And this is especially important for things like email VPNs and any accounts that have sensitive personal or financial information.
Speaking of VPNs, I know they're recommended a lot, but I'm not sure I understand what they do or why they're so important. Can you explain that?
Sure. So a VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it basically creates a secure tunnel for your internet traffic.
Okay.
It encrypts your data and routes it through a server in a different location, which makes it much harder for hackers to track your activity or steal your information.
So if someone intercepts my data, they'll just see gibberish. Pretty much, yeah. And this is especially important when you're using public Wi-Fi networks, which are often unsecured.
Right, because anyone could be snooping on that network.
Exactly. So a VPN adds an extra layer of protection in those situations.
Gotcha. Now, another thing that the advisory stresses is the importance of backing up your data.
Yeah, backups are crucial.
I'll admit I've been guilty of not doing this as often as I should, but why is it so important?
Think of backups like an insurance policy for your data.
Okay.
If you do get hit with ransomware or have some kind of data loss, you can restore your files from a backup, and you don't have to pay the ransom or lose everything.
That makes sense. So it's like having a spare key in case you lose the original.
Exactly. You want to have that safety net.
So how often should people be backing up their data?
Well, it depends on how much data you have and how often it changes, but at least once a week is a good starting point.
Okay. And where should people store their backups?
The best practice is to have multiple backups in different locations. So an external hard drive is good for a local backup.
Right.
But you should also have a cloud backup, just in case something happens to your physical devices.
So if my house burns down or something.
Exactly. You still have your data safe in the cloud.
All right. So just to sum up everything we've talked about today,
Mm-hmm.
Medusa ransomware is a serious threat, but there are a lot of things we can do to protect ourselves.
Right. And knowledge is really the first line of defense.
Exactly. So just to recap some of the key takeaways: strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, VPNs, data backups. These are all essential tools in our cybersecurity arsenal.
Yeah, don't be afraid to use them.
And most importantly, stay vigilant. Don't click on suspicious links. Keep your software up to date and be aware of the tactics that these attackers are using.
Exactly. Stay informed, stay safe.
Great advice. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final question.
Yeah.
What's one thing you can do today to improve your own cybersecurity? Could be something small like enabling MFA on your email account, or something bigger like setting up a regular backup schedule. Whatever it is, take that step today.
Take action.
Don't wait until it's too late, because remember, in the world of cybersecurity, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on Medusa ransomware. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Stay safe.